18 months after the massacre at Kepler 442c, High Commander Vorthak's flagship drifted powerless in the ruins of the Vextar home system. The once mighty capital world below showed the scars of war, but careful observers would notice something strange. The cities were damaged but not destroyed. The orbital stations were captured but not obliterated. The humans had fought their way to the heart of the hegemony, while following rules that their enemies had abandoned. Fleet Admiral Hansol, promoted after his heroic survival of the rescue convoy massacre, commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the Justice Delivered. Around him, hundreds of Earthships held position in perfect formation. The Vextar fleet that had once numbered in the thousands was reduced to 30 damaged vessels, hiding behind their homeworld's moon. "Sir, President Hyajin's transport is approaching," reported Communications Officer Boram, who had also survived the original attack and requested to serve under Hansol again. "She will be here within the hour." Hansol nodded. The President of Earth had come personally to accept the surrender of the species that had declared war by attacking medical ships. It was fitting that the woman who had ordered this war should be the one to end it. General Yuna stood beside Admiral Seong-ho on the observation deck, watching the Vextar homeworld through the reinforced windows. Her Marines had fought through a dozen systems to reach this moment. They had captured enemy bases, rescued prisoners, and protected civilians while dismantling the most powerful military in this sector of the galaxy. "Hard to believe it is over," Admiral Seong-ho said quietly. 18 months ago, they thought they could intimidate us by murdering rescue workers. "It is not over until they sign the surrender documents," General Yuna replied. "But yes, they learned what happens when you attack our medical ships." Dr. Mi Young worked in the medical bay of the flagship, treating wounded crew members from both sides. True to human nature, the doctors who had survived the rescue convoy massacre now worked to save the lives of enemy soldiers. She had lost friends and colleagues in the attack on Kepler 442c, but she still followed her oath to heal rather than harm. "Doctor, the Vextar prisoners are asking to see you," reported Nurse Jae-sung, who had left communications work to study medicine after surviving the convoy attack. "They want to thank you for treating their wounded." Dr. Mi Young looked up from her patient, a young Vextar pilot whose ship had been disabled during the final battle. "Tell them I am doing my job." Nothing more, but the enemy soldiers knew better. They had been told that humans were monsters who would torture prisoners and kill the wounded. Instead, they found doctors who worked around the clock to save lives, regardless of which species those lives belonged to. President Hyajin's transport docked with the flagship exactly on schedule. She walked through corridors lined with human crew members who had fought across the galaxy to reach this moment. Each person she passed had lost friends or family to the Vextar attack. Each had chosen to fight according to human principles rather than alien barbarism. "Admiral Hansol," she said as she entered the bridge. "Status report." "Madam President, all Vextar military forces in this system have been neutralized. High Commander Vorthak has requested a meeting to discuss surrender terms. The planetary defense grid is offline, and all orbital facilities are under our control." President Hyajin looked at the planet below. Millions of Vexitar civilians lived there, going about their daily lives while their government's war machine collapsed around them. The humans could have bombarded the cities from orbit, but they had chosen a harder path. "Casualties?" she asked. Admiral Dong Hyun consulted his reports. 17,000 human military personnel killed in action, 3,000 wounded. Enemy military casualties are estimated at 400,000 killed, with 2 million captured. Civilian casualties? Fewer than 50,000 across all combat zones, General Yuna reported with quiet pride. "Our forces followed strict rules of engagement. No attacks on civilian targets, no bombardment of cities, no destruction of infrastructure needed for daily life." President Hyajin felt a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. Every human death was a tragedy, but they had fought a clean war against an enemy that had started with the murder of medical personnel. They had proven that victory did not require abandoning their humanity. "Bring High Commander Vorthak aboard," she ordered. "It is time to end this." 30 minutes later, the Vextar leader was escorted to the main conference room. He was an older alien, his carapace scarred from decades of military service. He had expected to die in this final battle, but the humans had disabled his ship instead of destroying it. President Hyajin sat across from him at the conference table. Admiral Hansol and General Yuna flanked her, while Dr. Mi Young sat nearby as a reminder of the medical personnel who had died in the attack that started this war. "High Commander," President Hai Jin began, "your government attacked a clearly marked medical convoy engaged in humanitarian operations. You murdered doctors, nurses, and the civilians they came to save. You have lost the war that your actions began." Vorthak looked around the room at the humans who had defeated his empire. These were not the weak creatures his intelligence reports had described. They had demonstrated military capabilities that surpassed anything the hegemony possessed. "Your species fights unlike any other," he said slowly. "You could have destroyed our worlds, killed our civilians, enslaved our people. Instead, you captured our military and protected our families." "Why?" Dr. Mi Young leaned forward. "Because we are not you. We do not murder medical personnel. We do not target civilian shelters. We fight when we must, but we remain human." President He Jin placed a tablet on the table containing the surrender terms. "The hegemony of Vextar is dissolved effective immediately. Your military forces will be disbanded and your weapons destroyed. War crimes tribunals will prosecute those responsible for the attack on the rescue convoy." Vorthak read through the terms, expecting harsh punishment for his people. Instead, he found detailed plans for reconstruction aid, medical assistance, and economic development programs. "You offer to help rebuild what your war destroyed?" he asked in confusion. "We offer to help your people build something better," President Hai Jin replied. "The hegemony chose conquest and murder. Your civilians can choose cooperation and peace." Admiral Hansol activated a wall screen showing the memorial being built on Kepler 442c. The colony had been restored, and families again lived and worked there. But at the center of the main city stood a monument listing the names of every person killed in the rescue convoy and the original colony. 88,000 people died because your government decided to send a message, Hansol said quietly. "The message you sent was that you did not value human life. The message we are sending back is that we value all life, even yours." Captain So Young, who had survived the destruction of her ship and now commanded a relief fleet, would lead the reconstruction efforts on former hegemony worlds. The same humans who had fought to destroy the Vextar military would now work to rebuild their civilization. Vorthak picked up the electronic pen to sign the surrender documents. His hand shook slightly as he realized the full implications of what had happened. His people had attacked a rescue convoy and awakened something they never should have challenged. "My intelligence officers told me humans were weak because you helped others instead of conquering them," he said. "They were wrong." "No," President Hai Jin corrected. "They were exactly right. We help others instead of conquering them. That is why we are stronger than you ever imagined." The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had watched the war with interest now understood that a new power had emerged. The humans had fought with honor against an enemy that had shown none. They had won completely while maintaining their principles. Admiral HFY, the officer who had ordered the original attack on the rescue convoy, sat in a detention cell awaiting trial for war crimes. He had expected the humans to execute him immediately. Instead, he had lawyers, medical care, and regular meals, while legal experts from across the galaxy prepared for the most important trial in interstellar history. On Earth, families of the rescue convoy victims watched the surrender ceremony with mixed emotions. Their loved ones would never come home, but their sacrifice had led to something unprecedented. A war fought and won without losing the values that made humanity worth defending. The memorial on Kepler 442c bore a simple inscription: "Never again will rescue ships burn while humanity draws breath." The words were carved in stone, but the promise was written in the hearts of every human who served in the fleet that had brought justice to the galaxy. The war was over. The hegemony of Vextar was finished, and the galaxy had learned that the most dangerous enemy was not the one who enjoyed violence, but the one who hated it and would use it anyway to protect the innocent. Humanity had gone to war to defend their medical ships and had emerged as the protectors of peace itself. 6 months after Earth declared war, the galaxy was in shock. The Vextar hegemony had expected human diplomats begging for peace. Instead, human warships appeared simultaneously at 17 different hegemony worlds, striking with precision that seemed impossible. Admiral Dong Hyun commanded the largest fleet from the bridge of the dreadnought Terra's Vengeance. His ships surrounded the Vextar military base at Rigel 7, cutting off all escape routes. The base that had trained the crews who attacked the rescue convoy was now trapped and helpless. All Vextar vessels, this is Admiral Dong Hyun of the Earth Fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies. You have 30 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Any ship that attempts to flee will be destroyed. Any ship that fires weapons will be destroyed. Choose wisely. The Vextar base commander Admiral Techmore looked at his tactical display in disbelief. How had the humans moved so many ships so quickly? His intelligence report said Earth had only a few hundred vessels. But the force surrounding his base was massive. Sir, his weapons officer reported nervously. I count over 400 human ships. Their design configurations do not match our intelligence files. Admiral Techmore tried to contact the approaching human fleet. Earth vessels, you are in hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Dong Hyun's reply was cold and final. Admiral, your government fired on medical ships carrying wounded children. You forfeited the right to make demands. Surrender now, or we will take your base by force. At the same time, Commodore Changmin led his stealth destroyer squadron through the Altair system. His ships were invisible to Vextar sensors, using technology that Earth had developed in secret for decades. They struck supply convoys without warning, crippling the enemy's ability to move reinforcements. Target the supply ships only, Changmin ordered his captains. Let the crew escape pods launch. We are not them. Captain Hyunwoo commanded one of the stealth destroyers. His ship, the Silent Thunder, appeared from nowhere behind a Vextar supply convoy. The enemy ships had no time to react before their engines were disabled by precise shots. This is Captain Hyunwoo to Vextar convoy leader. He broadcast after the attack. Your ships are disabled but not destroyed. Launch your escape pods immediately. You have 10 minutes before we destroy the vessels to prevent military salvage. The Vextar crews fled to their escape pods, confused by an enemy that could destroy them completely, but chose not to. They had been taught that humans were weak and soft. These ships that struck from nowhere and disappeared like ghosts did not match that description. On the planet Vextar Prime, High Commander Vorthak received reports of disasters from across his territory. Human fleets had appeared at military bases, supply depots, and communication centers. Somehow the humans knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect. How are they moving so fast? He demanded of his intelligence chief. Our scouts report no human fleet movements before these attacks. Intelligence Director Morthak reviewed the reports with growing confusion. Sir, it appears the humans were already in position before we detected them. They must have been planning this for months. What the Vextar did not know was that Earth had been preparing for this day since first contact with hostile alien species 50 years earlier. Dr. Yunji's Prometheus project had created not just new weapons, but entirely new types of warfare. Admiral Sujin led the second major fleet group, striking at the Vextar shipyards in the Capella system. Her ships used quantum disruptor weapons that could disable entire enemy fleets without destroying them. The technology was so advanced that Vextar scientists could barely understand what was happening to their ships. All power systems are failing, reported the chief engineer on the Vextar battleship Death's Glory. It is as if something is interfering with the basic forces that hold matter. Together, Admiral Sujin watched the enemy fleet drift helplessly in space, their weapons and engines completely disabled. This is Admiral Sujin to all Vextar vessels. Your ships are now defenseless. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your destruction. Colonel Da-Yun led the Marine boarding parties that captured the disabled ships. Her troops moved through enemy vessels with equipment that seemed like magic to the Vextar defenders. Personal shields that stopped energy weapons, armor that enhanced human strength and speed, and weapons that could punch through any material. Secure the bridge and engineering, Da-Yun ordered her squads. Standard protocol. Treat prisoners according to interstellar law. We are humans, not animals. The captured Vextar crews were shocked by their treatment. They had expected torture and execution. Instead, they received medical care for their wounded and proper food and shelter. The humans fought like demons but treated prisoners with dignity. What terrified the Vextar most was that the humans seemed to know everything about their military. Captain Sungmin's cruiser Earth's Hammer intercepted coded Vextar communications and responded with perfect countermoves before the enemy could react. They know our battle formations. Admiral Rethkol reported to High Command. They know our supply routes. They know our communication codes. It is as if they have been watching us for years. They had. Earth's intelligence services had been monitoring the Vextar hegemony since their first expansion began. Every ship design, every tactical doctrine, every military base had been cataloged and analyzed. When war came, humanity was ready. But the most surprising thing to the other species in the galaxy was how the humans fought. They destroyed military targets with ruthless efficiency, but they went to extraordinary lengths to protect civilians. Special Operations Commander Jinnah led rescue missions into war zones, saving Vextar families from the crossfire. Civilian transport detected in the combat zone. Jinnah's sensor officer reported during the battle for the Vega system. All units, cease fire in Sector 7, Jinnah immediately ordered. Escort the civilian ship to safety before resuming operations. General Yunna's Marine forces followed the same principles. They captured Vextar military bases but used their own medical supplies to treat enemy wounded. They destroyed weapons factories but evacuated the workers first. Sir, the human forces have taken the munitions plant on Kepler 186b, reported a Vextar intelligence officer, but they airlifted all 3,000 workers to safety before the assault began. High Commander Vorthak struggled to understand an enemy that fought with such contradictions. They are destroying our military completely, but they refuse to harm our civilians. What kind of warriors are these? Dr. Yunji's advanced weapons proved devastating to Vextar forces. Kinetic bombardment systems could crack the surface of planets from orbit, but they were used only against military targets that had been evacuated first. Stealth fields rendered entire fleets invisible until they chose to attack. Quantum computers predicted enemy movements before the Vextar commanders had even decided what to. The Vextar had started this war believing humans were weak, because they helped others instead of conquering them. Now they faced an enemy that combined advanced technology with terrifying efficiency. The humans fought like they did everything else, with careful planning, superior equipment, and an unshakable moral code. Within 6 months, the mighty hegemony of Vextar was crumbling. Their fleets were scattered, their bases captured, and their supply lines cut. The humans had proven that peaceful intentions did not mean military weakness. They had shown the galaxy what happened when a species dedicated to saving lives was forced to take them instead. Admiral HFY, the officer who had ordered the attack on the rescue convoy, found himself trapped in his home system with the remnants of his once proud fleet. Human ships surrounded him on all sides, waiting for his surrender. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity demonstrated a new kind of warfare. Total military victory achieved without losing their moral foundation. They were about to learn that the most dangerous enemy was not the one who enjoyed killing, but the one who hated it but would do it anyway to protect the innocent. The escape pod carrying Captain Hansol reached Earth space 72 hours after the massacre. His face was burned, his uniform torn, but his eyes burned with purpose as he spoke to the emergency council. The recording from Communications Officer Jae Sung played on screens around the room, showing medical ships exploding while broadcasting surrender signals. President Hyojin of the United Earth Government sat at the head of the table, her face growing harder with each frame of the recording. Around her, the most powerful people in human space watched their rescue workers die over and over again. The footage showed children's evacuation ships being targeted deliberately, medical symbols clearly visible before they disappeared in balls of fire. "How many confirmed dead?" asked General Yunna of the Earth Marine Corps. 52,000 civilians on the planet, Hansol replied, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. 36,000 rescue personnel in the convoy. Total casualties, 88,000 men, women, and children. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun studied the tactical data from the black boxes. These Vextar ships used coordinated attack patterns. This was not random piracy. This was a military operation designed to send a message. The recording continued playing. Energy beams struck medical transports marked with red crosses. The universal symbol for medical aid, recognized by every civilized species in the galaxy, meant nothing to the attackers. Admiral Seung-ho of the Deep Space Navy leaned forward. "Sir, we have confirmation from 3 separate sources. The attacking fleet belonged to the hegemony of Vextar. They claim humans are expanding too aggressively into their territory." "Their territory?" President Hyojin's voice was quiet, but everyone in the room could hear the anger underneath. Kepler 442c was a legally established human colony. We purchased mining rights from the Planetary Council 20 years ago. Minister Kyung-soo, the head of diplomatic relations, cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we should attempt negotiations. Send a message demanding explanations and reparations. The room fell silent. Every person there looked at the minister as if he had suggested they surrender Earth itself. Captain Hansol stood up slowly. His legs shook from his injuries, but his voice was strong. Sir, with respect, you cannot negotiate with people who target medical ships. These aliens fired on rescue workers who were trying to save children. They bombed a civilian colony after destroying the ships that came to help. Dr. Mi-young, who had also survived in one of the escape pods, activated another section of the recording. This is what they did after destroying our convoy. Screen showed the orbital bombardment of Kepler 442c. Energy beams struck emergency shelters where families huddled, together waiting for rescue. The aliens made sure no witnesses remained on the planet's surface. They wanted to send a message, General Yuna said grimly. The message is that humans are not welcome in their territory. They believe killing rescue workers will make us afraid to help our own people. President Hyojin stood up and walked to the large window overlooking Earth's capital city. Millions of people lived below, going about their daily lives, unaware that their government was about to make the most important decision in human history. Admiral Dong-hyun, she said without turning around. What is our current military capability? The fleet admiral consulted his tablet. We have 600 active ships in the regular fleet. 200 more in reserve. The Marine Corps has 3 million active personnel with 5 million in reserves. And our special projects? Admiral Dong-hyun glanced around the room. Some information was too sensitive even for this council. The Prometheus project has 12 prototype vessels ready for field testing. Dr. Yoonji reports that all experimental weapon systems are operational. President Hyojin turned back to face the room. For 50 years we have explored space peacefully. We have built trade relationships with dozens of species. We have shared our technology and knowledge freely. When other worlds faced disasters, we sent help without asking for payment. She activated the wall screen, showing a map of human space. We have never started a war. We have never attacked civilian targets. We have never fired on medical ships. The recording played one more time. The Mercy's light, clearly marked with medical symbols, vanishing in a flash of alien weapons fire. The Vextar hegemony has declared war on us by their actions, President Hyojin continued. They have shown us what they think of human life. They have demonstrated that they do not respect the basic laws that govern civilized behavior. Minister Kyung-soo tried once more. But surely we can find a diplomatic solution. War will cost thousands more lives. Captain Hansol looked at the minister with tired eyes. Sir, they already killed 88,000 of our people. They targeted doctors and nurses. They bombed families waiting for rescue. What exactly do you want to negotiate? President Hyojin returned to her seat. I call for a vote. All in favor of declaring war on the hegemony of Vextar. Every hand rose except one. Minister Kyung-soo sat with his hands folded, looking around the room in shock. The motion passes, President Hyojin announced. General Yuna, Admiral Dong-hyun, you have full authorization to mobilize all military forces. Dr. Yoonji, release the Prometheus technologies for immediate deployment. As the council members filed out to begin preparations, Fleet Admiral Dong-hyun approached the president. Ma'am, the Vextar hegemony has over 2,000 warships. They control 40 star systems. This will not be an easy war. President Hyojin looked at the now empty screen where the massacre footage had played. Admiral, they fired on medical ships carrying children. They bombed civilian shelters. Easy or hard does not matter anymore. We are going to end them. Across human space, reserve fleets began emerging from hidden bases. Ships that officially did not exist, powered up weapons that had never been tested in combat. Dr. Yoonji's laboratories opened their sealed vaults, revealing technologies that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Reserve Fleet Commander Insu received his orders while his ships were still hidden in the asteroid fields of the outer system. Prometheus command to all units. Operation Justice is authorized. Repeat, Operation Justice is authorized. The Vextar hegemony had sent their message by attacking a rescue convoy. Now Earth would send their reply. Admiral HFY, celebrating his victory over the human medical ships, had no idea that he had just awakened something that should have been left sleeping. 18 hours after the footage reached Earth, President Hyojin signed the formal declaration of war. The document was brief and simple. The hegemony of Vextar has committed acts of war against Earth and her colonies by attacking marked medical vessels engaged in humanitarian operations. A state of war now exists between our peoples. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a difference between humans who explored space in peace and humans who went to war. The Vextar were about to discover why Earth's military kept so many secrets, and why humanity had survived every challenge they had ever faced. The rescue convoy was gone, but their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Earth was going to war. The first shot came without warning. A brilliant beam of energy struck the medical transport Mercy's Light directly in its center. The ship, carrying 3,000 doctors and nurses, simply vanished in a ball of fire and metal fragments. Captain Hansol watched in horror as pieces of the destroyed ship scattered across space. "All ships, evasive maneuvers! Return fire." But the rescue convoy had no weapons to return fire with. These were medical ships built to save lives, not take them. Their only defenses were basic shields meant to protect against space debris, not military-grade weapons. The unknown fleet opened fire with coordinated precision. Admiral HFY, commanding from his flagship, had decided that the human expansion into this sector must end. He would use these so-called rescue ships as an example to the rest of the galaxy. "Target their engines first," HFY ordered his weapons officers. "Let them know they cannot escape. Then destroy them slowly." Captain So Young of the transport Hope's Embrace tried desperately to reach the planet's surface. Her ship carried engineering equipment that could restore the colony's power systems. If she could just reach the atmosphere, maybe some good could come from this disaster. "Engineering teams to evacuation pods," she announced over her ship's communication system. "If we cannot land the ship, we will land ourselves." But the alien weapons found her ship before she could deploy the pods. Plasma cannons burned through her hull like hot knives through paper. So Young had just enough time to send a final message to Earth before her ship exploded. On the Compassion's dawn, Communications Officer Jae Sung worked frantically to record everything. His fingers flew over his console, capturing sensor data and enemy ship signatures. If anyone survived this attack, Earth needed to know what happened here. "Captain, the Golden Hope is gone," Boram reported, her voice breaking. "The medical star is taking heavy damage. Captain Kim's ship just lost life support." Dr. Mi Young ran through the corridors of their ship, treating wounded crew members as explosions shook the walls around her. Smoke filled the air and sparks flew from damaged electrical systems. She moved from patient to patient, doing what she could with limited supplies while their ship died around them. "Medical team to Section 7, she called over the intercom. "Multiple casualties from the engine room." In engineering, Chief Taeho rerouted power to the shields, trying to keep them alive for a few more minutes. His hands moved automatically over the controls while his mind struggled to understand what was happening. These were medical ships. Everyone in the galaxy knew the symbols painted on their hulls. Who would attack doctors and nurses? "Shield power at 30%, he reported to the bridge. "I cannot give you much more, Captain." Commander Wu Jin coordinated damage control teams throughout the ship. Men and women ran through corridors filled with smoke and debris, trying to repair systems faster than the enemy could destroy them. It was a losing battle, but they fought anyway. "Section 12 is sealed off," Wu Jin reported. "Fire suppression systems are working, but we lost the backup medical bay." Hansol tried one more time to contact the attacking fleet. "Please, we are a medical convoy. We carry no weapons. We came here only to save civilian lives. Why are you doing this?" The answer came not in words, but in actions. 3 more energy beams struck his ship, overwhelming the shields and tearing massive holes in the hull. Atmosphere rushed out into space, taking equipment and people with it. The alien admiral watched the destruction with satisfaction. These humans had spread too far into space. They built colonies on worlds that should belong to the hegemony of Vextar. This attack would teach them to stay in their own small corner of the galaxy. "Continue firing," HFY ordered. "Leave no survivors to carry tales back to Earth." But some humans refused to die easily. Captain Binwoo of the small transport Rising Dawn managed to hide his ship behind the wreckage of a larger vessel. His ship carried medical supplies for children, including special medicines that could only be made on Earth. "Cut all power except life support," he whispered to his crew. "Maybe they will think we are already destroyed." For 20 minutes they drifted silent and cold among the debris of their sister ships. They watched through their damaged sensors as the alien fleet systematically destroyed every rescue vessel they could find. The Compassion's dawn lasted longer than most. Han Solo's crew fought for every second, trying to save their ship and the people on it. Dr. Mi-young worked in the medical bay even as the ceiling collapsed around her. Taeho kept the engines running until the last possible moment. "Captain," Boram said quietly, "I am picking up movement on the planet's surface. The aliens are targeting the colony from orbit." Through the static on their screens, they could see energy beams striking the planet below. The mining colony, already damaged by earthquakes, began to disappear under a rain of fire from space. The 30,000 people they had come to save were being murdered along with their rescuers. "Record everything," Han Solo ordered. "Earth must know what happened here." Jae-sung's hands never stopped moving over his console. Every enemy ship signature, every weapon type, every detail of the attack went into the ship's emergency recorder. The black box would survive even if they did not. The end came quickly. A massive explosion tore through the engineering section, and the Compassion's dawn began breaking apart. Han Solo gave the order to abandon ship, but there were not enough escape pods for everyone. "Get the wounded out first," Dr. Mi-young shouted over the noise of collapsing bulkheads. "Save who you can." In the final moments, as his ship died around him, Han Solo managed to launch 3 escape pods toward the edge of the system. Maybe if they were lucky, those pods would reach safety. Maybe someone would survive to tell Earth what the Vextar had done here. The massacre lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 12 rescue ships had been reduced to scattered debris floating in space. 3 escape pods raced toward the jump point, carrying 847 survivors and the recorded proof of what had happened. Behind them, the planet Kepler 442c burned under continued bombardment from orbit. The 30,000 people who had waited for rescue would wait no more. The mining colony became a tomb, and the only witnesses to the crime were the survivors fleeing toward Earth. Admiral HFY looked at his tactical display with satisfaction. The human rescue fleet was completely destroyed. No human would ever again dare to venture into Vextar space. This sector belonged to the hegemony now, but the Admiral had made one crucial mistake. He had let some humans escape, and humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, never forgot their dead. Captain Han Solo stood on the bridge of the medical frigate Compassion's Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewing window. His ship led a convoy of 12 rescue vessels through space toward the Kepler 442 system. Each ship carried medical supplies, emergency equipment, and hope for the people trapped on the mining colony below. The distress signal had reached Earth 3 days ago. The message was simple but terrifying. The colony's life support systems had failed after massive earthquakes. 50,000 people needed help, and they needed it fast. The colony had humans, but also refugees from other worlds who had come there seeking a better life. "Captain, we will reach the system in 2 hours," reported Lieutenant Boram from the communication station. Her voice was steady, but Han Solo could hear the worry underneath. Everyone on the ship knew what would happen if they arrived too late. Dr. Mi-young entered the bridge, her medical uniform neat despite the long journey. She had been working non-stop to prepare for what they would find. "The medical teams are ready," she said. "We have enough supplies to treat 10,000 injured people and transport everyone off the planet if needed." Commander Wu Jin looked up from his tactical display. "The transport ships are loaded with emergency shelters and food. If the colony's buildings are damaged, we can set up temporary housing quickly." Han Solo nodded. This was what the Earth Alliance did best. When people needed help, humans came running. It did not matter if those people were human or alien. It did not matter if they were rich or poor. When someone called for help, Earth answered. The convoy had ships from many worlds. The Mercy's Light carried 3,000 medical personnel from Earth's best hospitals. The Hope's Embrace had engineering teams who could fix almost anything. The smaller transports held everything from baby formula to water purification systems. "Sir, we are receiving the colony's beacon," Boram announced. "The signal is weak, but we can track it." Han Solo studied the star map. Kepler 442c was a mining world on the edge of human space. It produced rare metals that helped build better ships and computers. More importantly, it was home to families who had made new lives far from Earth. Chief Engineer Taeho's voice came through the communication system. "All ships report ready, Captain. Engines running perfectly and all medical equipment is working." "Good work, Taeho," Han Solo replied. He looked at his crew. These people had volunteered for rescue duty. They could have chosen safer jobs on Earth or the inner colonies. Instead, they chose to fly into danger to save strangers. The convoy dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Immediately, the sensors began scanning for the colony. What they found made everyone worry more. "Captain," Wu Jin called out, "I am reading major damage on the planet's surface. Large areas show no power signatures. The earthquakes were worse than reported." Dr. Mi Young moved to look at the scanner readings. "The main hospital is completely dark. They will need everything we brought and more." Hansol opened a channel to all ships in the convoy. "This is Captain Hansol to all vessels. What we see below is bad, but we have saved people from worse situations. Follow your assigned roles. Medical teams prepare for mass casualties. Engineering teams get ready to restore power and life support. Transport crews prepare for full evacuation if necessary." Voices responded from all 12 ships. Captains and doctors, engineers and pilots all ready to risk their lives for people they had never met. This was humanity at its best. The convoy began moving toward the planet. The mining colony sat on the largest continent, or what was left of it. The earthquakes had split the ground in many places. Several of the colony's domed cities had cracks in their protective shells. "I am picking up life signs," Boram reported, "concentrated in the emergency shelters. Maybe 30,000 people, but the readings are unclear." "At least 30,000 survived," Mi-young said quietly. "We can save 30,000 lives today." But Taeho's voice interrupted their relief. "Captain, sensors detect ships approaching from the asteroid belt. Unknown design, moving fast." Hansol felt his stomach tighten. Unknown ships in a disaster zone could mean pirates or worse. "How many ships?" "At least 20, sir." "Large ones. They look like military vessels." The unknown fleet appeared on the main screen as small dots growing larger. Hansol had seen many ship designs during his years in space, but these were different. They were long and sharp, built for war rather than exploration or trade. "Open a channel to the unknown fleet," Hansol ordered. He straightened his uniform and faced the communications screen. When the channel opened, he spoke clearly and calmly. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Hansol of the Earth Alliance Rescue Convoy. We are conducting emergency humanitarian operations on Kepler 442c. Our ships are marked with medical symbols and carry only rescue equipment. Please identify yourselves." Only static answered him. "Try again," Hansol said. Boram worked at her console. "Channel is open, sir, but they are not responding." Wu Jin studied his tactical display. "The unknown ships are moving to intercept us. They will reach firing range in 10 minutes. Hansol tried again. "Unknown fleet, we are a medical convoy on a rescue mission. We carry medical supplies and evacuation equipment for civilian casualties. Please respond." Still no answer. Dr. Mi-young looked worried. "Captain, should we turn back?" Hansol looked at the planet below. 30,000 people waited for help that only his convoy could provide. If they left now, those people would die slowly as their air ran out and their power failed. "No," he said firmly. "We came here to save lives. Those people down there are counting on us." The unknown ships continued approaching. They moved in perfect formation, like a military unit that had trained together for years. Their weapon systems powered up, casting red glows along their hulls. "Captain," Taeho called from engineering. "All rescue ships report ready. Medical teams are prepared for immediate deployment." Hansol made his decision. "Continue to the planet. Maintain rescue operations. If those ships want to talk, they know how to use a radio." The convoy moved forward toward the planet and the people who needed them. Behind them, 20 unknown warships followed like predators stalking their prey. On the surface of Kepler 442c, 30,000 people waited for rescue, unaware that their salvation and their destruction were racing toward them through the darkness of space.